Okay, welcome back. My background is in marketing, and when I've been working for removals companies and carried out market research, I can tell you that on every survey we do, customers definitively do want to use a company that has green credentials, so provable green systems and procedures in place. They don't always want to pay more for that, but they do really make buying decisions. That's one of the factors that they take into account. So the subject of electric vehicles for trucks for the removals industry has been floating around for quite a few years. And for a long time, the arguments have been our routes are too unpredictable. We don't know where we're going to be able to charge. The battery is not good enough. They're too expensive. It feels to me, talking to some of the amazing operators at the show today and yesterday, that we're now hitting a turning point. So we seem to be starting to come towards price parity if we haven't already crossed that. And the infrastructure is now coming online to make this a much easier decision. But I'm going to hand you over to the expert, or one of the experts here, Adam from DAF Trucks. You're the EV and Sustainability Manager?
I am, yes, correct.
So he is very well placed to take a deep dive into this subject and tell you what's coming down the line with EVs. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Oh, yeah, I can hear myself, so that's a good start. So, as I was kindly introduced, my name is Adam Bennett. I'm the EV and Sustainability Manager for DAF Trucks UK. I guess providing a bit of context to that would be helpful. So what does that mean? In terms of the EV part of the role, it's very much been around implementing electric vehicles into the wider business, both internally at DAF Trucks UK and throughout the DAF dealer network. And that covers multiple departments. So that is sales, of course, after sales, to make sure that these vehicles are maintained and looked after, as well as dealer development. So what does the dealer of the future look like, and how do they equip themselves to be prepared for zero emission transport? The sustainability part of the role is very much outward facing. So that's very much around how can we help you guys implement electric vehicles into your operation, and how can we support you and help you with your science-based targets. So hopefully that gives a little bit of context to what the job title is. I think at the end we'll have a bit of a Q&A, and I'll be around for some of this afternoon to answer any questions as well. But hopefully many of the challenges that were outlined in the introduction, these slides will cover and hopefully give you some information on all of those topics. So I'll start with a relatively high-level sort of market overview. Now, we won't go back to basics as such, but we all know CO2 is a major greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change and global warming. Of course, transport contributes a significant amount of CO2 to the atmosphere, particularly heavy goods vehicles, given their size and given their duty cycles. So what are we going to do about it? Well, this map gives an indication of what that journey may look like through to 2050, which is the goal for the circular economy. And each of these roads is split into different technologies. So on the left-hand side, or the top road, we've got diesel, biofuels, and things like HBO. On the bottom road, we have things like hydrogen combustion engine and hydrogen fuel cell. And as a global manufacturer, we are and have to be prepared for all of these considerations. But the road that I'm going to talk about a little bit today is that middle road, and that's focusing on the battery electric vehicle. And that is very much the mainstay of what we see the industry being going forward. I guess a couple of key dates that jump out at you there are 2035 and 2040. And if that's not already known, by 2035, we can't sell any diesel vehicles 26 tonne and below. And by 2040, we can't sell any diesel vehicles at all. Now, I guess that feels like quite far away, but I mean, 2015 only seemed like yesterday to me, so it could only be a couple of bicycles for many fleets and operators. So it is really important to consider what can be done now, what learnings can be captured now, to put all of us in the best position to be successful by 2035 and by 2040. The next slide gives an overview of some of the products within DAF Trucks and within Leyland Trucks. All the way back to 1896, you can see there the Lancashire Steam Motor Company was operating. We've obviously got over 100 years of experience with diesel engines, but actually looking at some of these dates here, we've also got a lot of experience with various technologies. So back in the 1970s, we had the Leyland Concept Terrier, and that was an electric vehicle. I think we were actually utilising submarine batteries at that point. Don't ask me where we got those from. Obviously minimal range, but in terms of technology, it was there. I think we all remember having milk delivered on electric milk floats and that sort of thing. So the technology isn't new. Implementing the technology in today's practices is new. We then moved on to different technologies such as hybrid technology. And in 2018, we actually launched the very first electric tractor unit to the market. And that was an electric CF with a range of about 100 kilometers. In 2021, we were fortunate enough to launch the DAF LF Electric. And shortly after that, in 2022, we entered into a government-funded trial called the Battery Electric Truck Trial. And this allowed us to put 20 of these vehicles into the NHS and local councils, and it was all around data collection, monitoring the performance of the vehicles, monitoring the performance of the drivers, and how efficient these vehicles could be and how well they could work in those operations. And those vehicles are still in those operations today running. And that takes us through very much to the here and now, really. And this next slide is quite a nice image of the new generation DAF Electric. There's a lot of carryover to the new generation DAF diesel vehicles by way of cab design. So DAF had the first, and I think still the only cab on the market that adheres to the latest masses and dimensions legislation. So it's a very efficient cab design. And of course, the electric product has that cab too. So the next couple of slides, I'll just give a very short high-level overview of the actual products that are available. So we have an XB here today, which is behind me. And within the XB range, we offer a 12-ton, a 16-ton, and a 19-ton vehicle. And we also have the XD and the XF products. And they range from 12-ton through to 50-ton plated capability, with the largest being a 4x2 42-ton tractor unit. In terms of power output, the e-motors range from 120 kilowatts through to 350 kilowatts, and the range of these vehicles can vary between 150 kilometers up to excess of 500 kilometers, depending on the spec and how many batteries are selected for that particular vehicle and for that particular operation. Quite a busy slide, but the next one gives you a bit more detail in terms of how that looks. So just to be awkward, we'll probably start from the bottom up, and we can share these afterwards for any of you that can't see the data on the screen. So the XB we'll start with, and as I mentioned, you've got the ability of selecting a 12, 16 or 19 ton. And within that particular product, we offer 141, 210 or 282 gross kilowatt hours. Important to note the gross bit, and I'll come on to that shortly. In terms of charging capability, those vehicles can be charged at 150 kilowatts DC and also have an onboard converter to be able to charge those vehicles using AC charging. Perfect for overnight operations. I think I mentioned to somebody this morning that probably 65% of our diesel XB sales go into operations that do less than 100 miles a day. So this particular vehicle, with the ability of charging the vehicle overnight for those single shift operations, is a real good opportunity to explore electrification. As we move to the larger vehicles, into the XD and the XF product, the battery technology, although remains the same, the configuration is slightly different. So we can select 3, 4 or 5 battery packs, offering 315, 420 or 525 kilowatt hours capacity gross. Now those vehicles also have a slightly different charging architecture, still has the ability of AC charging if required, but can DC charge up to 325 kilowatts. Now I mentioned batteries. Obviously with electric vehicles, batteries make up a good chunk of those vehicles, so it's important to understand the chemistry and the technology. Throughout all of our vehicles at DAF Trucks, we offer LFP battery chemistry, lithium ferrophosphate, and there's a number of reasons why that's been selected from the outset. Firstly, they're a far safer chemistry and resistant to thermal runaway. They're a more sustainable chemistry, so there's no cobalt, nickel or manganese within that chemistry, so less mineable resources. And with those batteries, we offer a best-in-class warranty. So it's 4 megawatt per installed kilowatt hour, which equals around about 4,000 charge cycles. Now, those are accumulative charge cycles. So you might put 30% charge in, later in the day, you might put another 30% charge in, and then maybe 40%. That would equate to a charge cycle. So 0 to 100%. And they also come with an 8-year warranty, which we believe, as it stands today, is a market-leading offer. Now, that was very high level in terms of the vehicles that are available and one of the major USPs within those vehicles, which is the battery chemistry. But of course, the vehicle is only one part of the jigsaw. Throughout the DAF dealer network, all of our DAF locations are working towards becoming electric truck centres. Now that may mean nothing to most, and I'll try and give you an overview of what that entails. So not only are the sales teams equipped to offer a consultative selling approach, so to look at each operation individually and work out the best product for your operation, but they're also equipped from an after-sales perspective to be able to monitor, maintain, and make the most of the vehicles whilst in service for you. In addition to that, all of our dealerships are looking at infrastructure to support these vehicles. Now that could be mobile charging units within their workshops to be able to put energy into the vehicles at servicing points, but also fixed infrastructure. So a lot of our dealerships have already got 180 kilowatt DC chargers installed on site. Of course, an advantage for when vehicles come into service, but also an opportunity to allow customers that go past their sites or that are local to them to utilise their charger at opportunity charging, to extend the range of the vehicle and to make the most of what could become a shared network. Not quite as pretty as the previous map, but this gives a bit of an indication of how we've rolled out those dealerships in terms of their journey towards becoming a DAF electric truck centre. So those dots on there are various projects that we've been involved in, and I'll mention one of them in a little bit more detail shortly. But we have things like an early adopter program and an early warning program where we put pre-production vehicles out into customers to test the technology. And we've also contributed to ZHID, Zero Emission HGV and Infrastructure Demonstration, with a sizable volume of vehicles going into operators across 3 of those projects. So how we prioritise the dealer setup or the dealer journey to becoming a DAF electric truck centre is to look at where those vehicles are going into operations first and to prioritise those locations to be equipped to service those vehicles. So these are the dots that you can see here today. And that is ever expanding across all of our locations, which consist of 137 across the UK. So that was the vehicles, that was the dealerships, which will enable you to keep those vehicles in your operation. The other part of the jigsaw, of course, is infrastructure. There's no denying how difficult that can be and how important that is to be able to run electric vehicles within your operation. So PACCAR, the parent company to DAF, have a PACCAR Power Solutions department in Eindhoven, and their sole goal is to provide products into all subsidiaries, both chargers and energy storage systems alike. And this slide gives you an overview of what those chargers on offer look like today. So it ranges from AC units, 7, 11 and 22 kilowatt, perfect for car parks, perfect for company cars, but also very suitable to recharge the XB, as I mentioned earlier, in single shift operations. We've then got mobile units, which are useful for the dealer network and also for anybody that's got their own workshops. Right the way through to 360 kilowatt DC chargers, and some of those are modular designs as well. If anybody wants more information on the infrastructure, again, please reach out to either your local DAF dealership or come and speak to me before you leave, and I'll share my contact details with you as well. Now, providing infrastructure as an OEM is one aspect of it, but of course, we are seeing an improvement in infrastructure across the UK as well. I guess most notably is the Mylant site opening in Immingham, with a fair few other potential HGV dedicated sites with spades in the ground as well. And this website is in the public domain and you can access it, and it will show you where those dedicated HGV sites are located. Some of which may be customers that have installed their own chargers and are willing to open them up to operators to be able to utilise them. And other sites have been created with a view of becoming a public charge site. So again, I will share this with you. It's a very useful site to go and look at, especially if you're looking at implementing electric vehicles into your own operation. You've got the ability there to see where you can utilise opportunity charging going forward, as well as at your own locations. So electric vehicles, dealer development and charging solutions. The other part of that jigsaw, of course, are services. And within DAF, we've worked very hard at creating a package of services that are suitable for customers to be able to implement this technology. So connected services by way of telematics, we have PACCAR Connect within all of the vehicles, which will enable you to see various bits of information, including the driver or fleet manager, in terms of the efficiency of the vehicle, the state of charge, being able to schedule your charging as well, and a host of other abilities. Uptime services. Now, I didn't talk about this previously, but we've got DAF Fleet Services and DAF Aid, which is a market-leading breakdown service. Not suggesting these vehicles are going to break down, of course, but it is important to have that security and that confidence that you have got a market-leading breakdown service at hand to be able to triage any issues as they arise and to get the vehicles back into service as quickly as possible. Driver training is a huge focus of ours. I mentioned the battery electric truck trial. That was all around data collection, so those vehicles were put into service before driver training deliberately, so we could monitor the performance of the trucks before and after that had taken place. And we actually saw a swing of around 30% efficiency in those vehicles. So we know how important driver training is to be able to get the best out of these vehicles. And then a very key one is financial services. You know, we talk about reaching parity with electric vehicles, and we've got products now in the market which absolutely deliver that. It's going to be different by operation. It's going to be different by customer need. So it's really important to reach out to your local DAF dealership or to us as an OEM directly, and we can offer a consultative approach to look at how that looks for you guys individually and where that parity point is reached for you. I'm sure the Zero Emission HGV and Infrastructure Demonstrator Program, which is a mouthful, you're all aware of it, I'm sure. But just to give you an overview of what that entails, that's a 5-year demonstration, and that's to deliver the hardest to decarbonise sector of our industry. So that's the 40 to 44 tonne vehicles, both electric and hydrogen. And the three projects that are listed on the screen here is Electric Freightway, eFreight 2030, and the Zen Freight project. DAF are partnered to all three of those projects, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to put over 90 vehicles into that program off the back of it. So this gives you quite a pretty image of some of the vehicles that are already running. And as mentioned, we've got over 100 EVs going into service throughout 2025. Around about 50% of those are already in service. And some high-level statistics to show you what they're achieving. So we've already achieved over 150,000 kilometres travelled. In terms of consumption or efficiency of those vehicles, with the XD and the XF product, we're seeing around 1.1 kilowatt hours per kilometre, and with the XB, around 0.8 to 0.9 kilowatt hours per kilometre. Really, really positive, because the marketed range that we've put out there of our vehicles is absolutely being reached, and in many cases being surpassed, which is a real good news story for us. Of course, utilising infrastructure. So let's take the heaviest vehicle, a 5-pack tractor unit, for instance. The marketed range for us is around 260 miles. In some instances, we've seen those vehicles achieve over 300 miles. And with the right charging strategy, driver breaks, lunch hours, deloading points, loading points, you could quite easily see those vehicles doing in excess of 500-600 miles per shift. I've actually hidden a slide unintentionally. So there was a slide that was going to come up to you at the moment to just give you an overview of what our current EV electric tractor offer looks like. You may have seen it in social media recently, and this is where we've created a bespoke product, which we didn't have within the organisation previously, certainly within the electric vehicle space, and that is a contract purchase solution. The reason for creating a contract purchase solution is it offers two things. The asset sits on the balance sheet of the operator, which enables you to utilise the tax benefits and the EV allowance benefits that are out there, but also gives you the flexibility of returning that vehicle at the end of the 5-year period, or purchasing it and retaining it within your operation. So it offers some incentives and it offers some flexibility. And with this product, we can absolutely demonstrate parity against diesel. So if you're interested to understand what that looks like for you individually, again, please reach out. And then quite a nice image to show you what a DAF dealership of the future may look like. So you've got the ability to charge passenger cars, dedicated eHGV charging stations on site, solar panels on the roof for that circular strategy, as mentioned, on the very first slide, and very clean and organised and welcoming workshops, which may seem quite different to the current world of diesel products, but I think that is going to evolve and change as more and more of our vehicles become either zero emission or specifically electric. Different technologies, the role of a technician may well change, less about being on the knees in dirty, oily environments, and more around potentially being a data analyst, as well as their EV capability, technician capabilities. So relatively short and sweet, relatively high level in terms of the actual product overview, the development of the network, and some of the charging infrastructure that we can offer. But hopefully it gives some confidence to you all to know that as a market leading OEM, we are absolutely invested and putting in a lot of research and development into making sure that we're equipped to support your journeys. So thank you for listening and open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Adam. If anyone's got a question, do pop your hand up and I'll bring you the microphone. So just to kick us off with questions, one thing that occurred to me, so in the removals industry, we tend to keep our vehicles for a very long time. Typically, we're low mileage. Typically, the bodies wear out way before the power unit does. So if we are in a situation, which is quite believable, that we've exhausted that 4,000 cycles of charging and that battery is starting to fail, what would be the pro? I mean, obviously, this is very new technology and you're probably not exploring that just yet, but is this a kind of situation where we would then fit a new battery unit to the vehicle and then carry on using it? Or?
So to be completely transparent, at the moment, we wouldn't have the ability to remove the batteries and install new batteries into the vehicle. With that said, for most low mileage operations, as you mentioned there, reaching 4,000 charge cycles probably wouldn't be possible within the 8-year period. Although the battery warranty is for 8 years, there's nothing to say that these batteries won't run for far, far longer. So from a degradation standpoint, LFP battery chemistry is the best chemistry out there. So the degradation is far lower than other chemistries. A lot of the bus industry have adopted LFP battery chemistry, and from a lot of the feedback we've received from those bus companies, they're experiencing around 1% annually degradation. So absolutely at the end of 8 years, there's nothing to say that you can't run those vehicles for another 4, 5, 6 years, depending on the mileage of that particular operation.
Okay, fantastic. And we talked a little bit about infrastructure and touched on that. So obviously when people are starting to decide that the time is right for them to swap over to EVs, the first thing to think about is their own infrastructure on site and thinking about installing chargers and so on. Any experience of what the lead time looks like for that, or does it vary regionally? Or?
It does seem to vary regionally. Different DNOs operate in different ways. So depending on where you are within the UK, you may get a different answer from your local DNO, let's say. But it is absolutely the right starting point. The lead time to install and commission infrastructure far outweighs the lead time to order and have an electric vehicle delivered. So a really, really good starting point for anybody that's exploring it. With that said, I've mentioned that the XB has the ability to charge overnight with an AC charger. That can be installed for £600-700, let's say. Even the tractor units could be charged overnight using a mobile charger. So to support a mobile charger at 40 kilowatt, you would just need a 63 amp commando socket. You obviously need the headroom to be able to utilize it. But a 63 amp commando socket would allow you to run that mobile charger at 40 kilowatt. So I guess the point there is, yes, explore infrastructure in terms of future-proofing your site and looking at what your strategy may be over a period of years. But if you are in the market to look at one vehicle, potentially, to understand the technology and to start that learning process, then don't let infrastructure be a blocker to you, because there are ways to work around that. Load management systems, etc., can also support that. But individual chargers for individual vehicles may not actually be as big a challenge as you may foresee. Going forward, if you're looking at converting your whole fleet, then of course you need to consider what project you need to get underway for your infrastructure. We can supply the hardware, but what we can also do is help the facilitation in terms of conversations with DNOs, local installers, site designers, and anybody to commission those sites as well. We obviously have those partners within the supply chain at DAF Trucks. So any support required in that field, again, please reach out.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
Hi, Adam. Just one question about the bodywork. When obviously the removal sector is quite specific about its bodywork and its design. And there could be the potential risk of the bodywork interfering with the battery position. How movable are the batteries?
Very good question. And they are modular. So we do have the ability to move the batteries forwards and backwards on the chassis. Let's take, so we mentioned the industry more often than not can be low mileage. So you may not require the 5 battery packs. 3 battery packs may be sufficient for the operation that it's going into. Battery pack number 1 always sits underneath the cab where the engine would have been previously to utilise that space. And then battery packs number 2 and 3 could either be put on the same side of the vehicle, both at the front of either side of the vehicle, or both at the rear of either side of the vehicle. And that gives a bit of flexibility for the type of body that you may wish to put on it, landing legs for construction industry, etc. So yeah, we absolutely have some ability to be flexible there. Limited, of course, given the size of the batteries and the weight of the batteries. But yeah, we would absolutely work with bodybuilders to look at bespoke bodies for particular operations.
Okay. Thank you very much. Warm round of applause, please.